Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up
All that jam.
All That Jam, Quick Hit. Lyle Divinsky on songwriting.
I'd love to know like your songwriting process if you have one, or how you kind of feel is the best scenario for you when you're kind of in that mode.
Um, I operate, I don't necessarily have a daily practice of it, but taking, giving myself a couple hours to be able to sit with my guitar. If I can do it every day, amazing. The world doesn't always afford me that chance, but being able to just sit down and kind of breathe with it. And I think that's how most everything up until chapter 3 of seasons has been that, and everything has always kind of started with the guitar in my hand and just kind of mumbling and like coming up with a chord change that I dig and letting melodies pop into my head and freestyling, not necessarily with words but with melodies and kind of where they go, and letting that happen. And then as I start to repeat some melodies, certain sounds start to come out. And it's kind of like the first page is always the hardest to the first sentence is always the hardest one to write. But I kind of look at it as a puzzle sometimes, where like a sound will reveal itself, and then it's like, all right, cool, well, so these are some words that work with that. How am I feeling within this? And then kind of like work my way out of that sound, and like within the melodies and within the kind of the syllables that seem to present themselves. It's kind of like almost like a magic eye, where you have to squint to find out what the picture actually is and like where the words actually are, and then they start to kind of reveal themselves. And then as you get that start, you can kind of tell the story and figure out what the song is trying to tell you and what you're trying to contribute into that. Because I don't think that it's necessarily like a vessel for the art, but like the ideas can be that, and then it's your job to pick up from what you have been given in that moment and go from there. Does that make sense?
Robert Hunter talked about the muses. He had muses. He had a purple one and a blue one, and when they would
Mm,
show up, they would give him different songs.
I love that. I love that. That's cool. Very different colors, different times. Yeah, because I know different people experience it in a different way. Like Tom Waits personifies his songs, and how like if he's getting an idea while he's in the car in a space that he can't, like, especially before voice memos and things like that existed, uh, he would talk to the idea, and so like it's just like, nope, not yet. I'm not in a place where I can receive this yet. So you're gonna have to come back and get me when I'm ready.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite books. It's an oldie. It's just songwriters on songwriting, and it's just
Yeah.
personal essays. And I've read it and reread it so many times because I'm endlessly fascinated by the creative process and how individual it is. And how it changes over time. Like I would imagine, and I'm curious about this. So when we think about uneven floors,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then seasons, there's a period of time for sure in between those.
Yeah.
Um, like I'm sure some things are the same, but I'm also thinking that you may approach that differently just because of where you are in your life and experiences you've had, in between.
Of course. I mean, for one, I mean, there was a 7 year period in between releasing things under my own name. I mean, Uneven Floors was the record that I worked on. Basically, I lived in New York for a little over 6 years, and my goal was to make my dream record when I was there. And so I was doing whatever I needed to do in order to make that happen, playing in the subways during the days and in the clubs at night, and meeting my network and doing all of that. Finally, put that record out, which I'm so proud of that record. And but like 2 weeks later, after I put it out, the Motet asked me to join. So I never really got a chance to put the full backing behind that. Thinking about doing a little vinyl re-release of that record, and I got some bonus tracks that I might put in.
Yeah,
Uh,
that hit.
yeah, I might do that. But I mean, that was a process of me living in New York. This was the first place that I had ever lived outside of, you know, college and my hometown of Portland, Maine, and kind of discovering what my adult self, who my adult self was. And then after I joined the Motet, got to travel everywhere in the country, parts of the world, got to have experiences outside of them that did the same. And by the time that it came to writing this record, I mean, to have 6 more years of life under your belt and all of that travel and all that time, it's kind of hard to put a definitive change or switch that happened within my process. But I think inevitably things grow, things return, things change. Like the path goes. I mean, you know, the writing with the Motet was very different because it was instrumentals that were handed to me, and so I kind of learned how to craft a song and make it feel like my own just with my voice, and feel like I could take ownership over it just through my voice. So being able to bring that knowledge into the Seasons record has been hugely helpful. And also with the Seasons record, I've self-produced the whole thing. Where Uneven Floors, I had a producer and had a band that I was able to be in the studio with. But with Seasons, it started as a pandemic project, so it's been the send it off to a drummer in New York, and then a bass player in LA, and then a guitar player in Toronto, and learn how to mix, learn how to be the craftsman of the whole thing. You know?
Yeah, all the pieces. So did you like being on the road? Did you like that kind of touring schedule? Like did that work for you? Because it's different for everybody.
I I love touring. I love being on the road. Uh, I don't think that I want. I don't think in my ideal world I will do it quite as much as many shows as I played with the Motet. Um, or if I do, I think I would do it differently, to go out for a block of time and then take a block of time at home, as opposed to kind of the back and forth. Because I still, like I said, I want to be out on the road and work my way into uh, still playing, you know, 50 shows a year or something like that. That sounds great. But if I can also sleep in the same bed and write songs and be creative in different ways, and I think that my desire for creativity has expanded into more than just the stage.
How do you know when a song's done?
Ooh, there's a feeling. There's a feeling. Like, and oftentimes it's me trying a bunch of ideas on top of it that I know don't serve it. I'm lucky that, like, in the digital age that we live in, where you can, you know, you're not just hitting it to tape and then calling it good, and it's not like throwing paint on the canvas where there's no erase. It kind of becomes a trial and error. I kind of equate it to, like, the difference between who did I hear this from? I think it might have been Lindsey Buckingham on an interview, and I really loved it. But it's he was saying the difference between making music with a band versus making music solo. With a band, it's like shooting a movie. You write the script, you get everything together, you hit action, the cameras roll, and what happens happens. And you see, like, you know, everybody has their ideas and their parts that are going at the time, but, like, things will inevitably happen that are different than planned. And then when it's solo, when you're doing it solo, it's more like a sculpture, and you get to kind of, like, slowly like take this part away and then look back at it, and then actually, let's add that back in and kind of morph this and morph that. And you get to really create a different type of relationship with it that is more of a it's a cerebral process as opposed to just like letting it all go in the moment. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. And I think that it's honestly better if balance exists between those, because Uneven Floors was cut in a total of like 7 days. And I've probably spent like 700 hours on the Seasons record. So, I mean, for my own sanity, I think I would like to shoot a few more movies, as opposed to these sculptures. Um,
There's something to be said for having someone to be able to say, all right, let's, why don't you try this or something, as opposed to being left to your own devices. At least for me, I find that
oh,
I'll
yeah.
never be done something.
I sing the producers praises every single time that I get the chance. And yeah, I mean, I think that like this started off as a project in order to be able to challenge myself to see what I could do by like kind of left to my own devices. And like I said before, like I will never do it like this again, but I'm so glad that I did.
I
You know,
learned a lot.
damn right. And it's like I mean, shoot, I had never like with chapter 3, I mean, I had never made like fully made the full beat of a song by myself before and released it to the world. And out of necessity, because I told everybody I was going to do it, and so here we go. Like yeah, like the song "Try," which was the first one off of chapter 3. That was one that I did with these incredible producers called the 11 out in LA a long time ago when we were all in New York. But the other two, All About You and Negroni, are the first time that I've just made a beat all by myself. And like then I brought it to my buddy Tyler Quist from this group Jaw Gems, and he kind of helped me just like shift a couple things and whatnot. But being able to kind of show myself that I have the capacity to do all of this stuff, to to challenge myself in ways that I hadn't challenged myself before, is really rewarding, and it's something that I will be able to take with me and be able to utilize in the future too. Like I said, I want more people to be a part of it now, especially, now that we're not free of COVID, but we are back in the world as we are now. And especially being down here in Nashville, I'm just going to be surrounded by people I get to interact with and create with every day. I'm hyped.
I could tell. I mean, it's like coming out. It's so awesome. And when you're talking, it's reminding me, Kev, of Elias. We chatted with Elias Wallace last
Mhm.
week, who I've been listening to forever. Lyricist, rapper from LA originally, but got connected with this Danish hip hop band, 10, 15 years ago. And it took him in this totally different direction. And he's doing his own thing now. And the way he talked about it was almost like for him to be writing the songs, everything like you just mentioned, writing the
Mhm.
entire beat, he knew he had it within him, but he had never really had the opportunity or given himself the chance to really fully explore
Yeah.
all the pieces of songwriting.
Yeah.
And it felt very liberating as he was talking about it. So I don't know if I'm starting to think like, is that something that might be common for people who can play any number of instruments and do so many things, but you kind of end up for a certain point in time with that focus on vocals.
Of
That's
course.
your role, and then like you've just expanded, to so many other things.
Yeah, and I think that the thing for me in the past was I'm a proficient guitar player.
Hmm.
I can write on piano to a certain degree, or at least this is how I referred to myself beforehand. But I've also been very lucky to be surrounded by unbelievably talented musicians, and I I know that I've done things to be able to put myself in those scenarios, but I feel just so lucky that I've ended up in the situations that have put me in these places, so that I can literally just show up with my acoustic guitar, be like, hey, here's how this goes. put my acoustic guitar down, and then it happens. Like with the Uneven Floors record, this is the way that I had always done it beforehand. Was I would show up to the producer. I only sent the acoustic guitar version, even though I had played stuff live and there were certain band arrangements, and we didn't show anybody in the band the songs ahead of time. So then we got to the studio, and granted, like, we were dealing with some of the baddest people. It was, Nigel Hall on keys, Louis Cato on drums, Adam Agati on guitar, Calvin Turner was the bass player and the producer. But so came in, and it was just like, cool, here's how the song goes. Here are the changes. Now we feel it, and now we go. And let it breathe like that. And this has been a challenge to be like, you know what? I can do everything. I will try to find a way to make it work. And now I realize that all of the studying that I've done, all of the development of the taste that I have kind of created through all of my listening and experimenting and learning, even if it's not the most intricate parts, the parts work. I have the capacity to do this. And I think that this is something that I've talked to a lot of people about is, yeah, you're scared about something, but if you open yourself up to it, you're going to surprise yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're probably going to find out that you have more capacity to do things than you've ever realized.
If you are enjoying All That Jam, please like and subscribe to our social media channels at All That Jam Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit our website, allthatjampod.com. Make sure to sign up for our email list and tune in every week for new episodes.
Also, look for full interviews on our YouTube channel. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long.